Hey up guys, welcome back to another episode of the Gardener's Shed podcast. So what I want to do in this episode is just have a chat with you about how things have been going on basically. And the subject for this video or this little podcast episode is you never know what's around the corner. And I will basically get on with that and explain to you, like I said, you never know what's around the corner when it comes to this industry. That's one of the things that I really like about working in this industry. For me, I am making a very conscious decision to not refer to my business as my job. Quite often I find myself saying, I've got a good job and I enjoy my job. But in reality, I want to look at it as I enjoy my business. I've got a good business because it's all about your mindset. And I think having that business mindset, and don't get me wrong, I'm not shooting to be Richard Branson here or Bezos or anything like that. I just want to be basically the best gardener, best self-employed gardener, best self-employed business owner that I can be basically. And I think having the correct mindset and having the right mindset is incredibly important. And if you look at how these big businesses get formed and the people behind it, they all say the same thing, and it's all got the same pattern as they live and breathe their business. Now this year for me, it's been all about trying to get as much, not time off as it's not as much time off, but I want to have me 2 days off if I can, and I want to try and get a little bit of a breakaway whenever I can, preferably once a month if I can. But when I am working, it's basically I try to make the most of it as possible. I want that clear basically definition. What I mean by that is I want to go to work at 9 o'clock and I want to come back from work 5 o'clock if I can, 5:30 sometimes, and I want to try and get everything done in that time. So one of the big hurdles at the moment is this Make Tax Digital compliance. That's something that I think I've not seen too many people talk about it. I've seen a few people mention it, but I think it's affecting all of us basically. We can't get away from it. We've all got to, in air quotes, comply with it. And I've been trying to get to grips with that. So as such, it's a bit sort of strange. So I like the way that I do my books, but also I've got to do it the way that Zoho Books do it, which is the software that I'm using. So I'm finding now I'm almost doing 2 sets of blooming books. So I'm doing me typical books where I keep tabs on who I work for in a period of a day, and how much I earn from it, and also try and keep rough sort of tabs on timings as well. And then that's, I can look at a glance what's coming in, what's going out, but also I've got Zoho Books now, which is a lot more comprehensive, and I'm sure, and I'm looking forward to it in a way, as to when I get looking into it fully, that it's going to give me a lot more feedback, a lot more data than what I am currently getting from my rather crude spreadsheets. But even then, I make sure that I do the invoicing as and when I'm going. I think on Zoho Books I've done it, but I've got to sort of do it again. I think I can generate a reoccurring invoice, which will make my life a lot easier. So I've been getting to grips with that. But I've been doing that when I'm at work. So when I'm having my dinner, I quickly fire off, or pull up to a customer's house, spend 5 minutes just, firing off a few invoices. Like I said, it just means that when I go home, that's it. I'm back at home. That time is myself. I've got that time to do what I please, what I like. So again, it's all about finding that balance. So other things that have been happening as well, I think I'll talk about some new kit that I bought. So what I'm trying to do, so this year, I think I've mentioned it, I've definitely mentioned it on the YouTube channel, this year it's all about building up the business and also my personal finances and the business finances, because at the end of the year I've got to go into hospital. I've got to have a hernia repair. It's another big operation, unfortunately, due to the nature of it. It's not a keyhole thing, it's always going to be hard for me, sod's law and all that. So I've got to go in at end of the year sometime. I don't know when. This is the thing, it could be, I could get that call or that letter through and it could be the end of October, which will mean I'll lose November and December, which are good months for me. Or it could be January and February, which isn't too bad, to be fair. I just don't know, but whichever way, I'm going to say I'm going to lose at least a month's worth of work and a month's worth of revenue. So as such, I want to use this year to bolster the finances. So I've got a big pot of money. So what I'm trying to do is bolster, my own sort of finances up. So I've got that safety blanket that if something happens. Also, I'm saving for the actual operation, so I'm putting money away. So I've got a wage basically provided for by myself. And another thing as well, I'm putting a little bit of an emergency pot in because we're having a camper van now. I want to make sure that if there's a problem with this, I've got it all in place where I'm covered basically. But on top of that as well, I'm also trying to put as much money as I can back into the business. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to invest as much back into the business. So what I've done to help with that, and it's not to keep the pressure on, but it all depends how you like it, is I need to get my credit score up. It's weird. I've never had debt. I've never borrowed anything. I've always, paid everything with, bank transfers and cash and all that. So as such, I've got a pretty lousy credit score. Well, it's not lousy, it's okay. I think it's the higher end of okay, but I want to get it up if I can. So I was advised get a couple of credit cards. So I have a credit for personal and a credit for business. And one of the things that I'm doing now is the equipment that I want and the equipment that I want to invest in, I'm purchasing it when I need it, opposed to at the end of the month like I used to do. I used to save for it and then purchase it, which is a good way of doing it. You're not overstretching yourself, but at the same time, if my blower's on its way out, or I want a new blower, or anything anything that you sort of come across, I've got to wait a month for, or even longer if something comes up. At least with doing it or borrowing it forward, as I call it, as it's there, it's mine, I've got it to sort of to hand. And I look at my bank account and I'm like, shit, I owe this much, and it gives me that motivation to keep pushing, pushing forward, taking on the work, being smart with what I do to get it paid off. That's the sort of another real good reason that I like it. It's probably not the best for everybody, but it keeps me motivated. And also it's, I know what I've borrowed. It's, it's interest free if I pay it back within a month. So it's not like I'm being stung on fees. It's helping me credit score. Another thing as well, it's a cashback thing as well. So I probably get 0.0001 pence back. I think I'm averaging about £8 a month or something, which over the, or £4 or something. I think it's £8 with both of them. So by the end of the year, 8 times 12, that's money that I wouldn't have got. And like I said, there's many reasons for me doing it, and many plus reasons. So I am sort of pushing on with that as always. So I bought a new Stihl BGA 250 blower. I bought the GTA 40 handheld chainsaw, which apparently is professional grade, and I bought a HLA 26, which is a handheld hedge trimmer. Yeah, it's just been nice having them. I've not used a GTA 40 yet. I like the little handheld chainsaws, if I'm being honest with you. For me, it's handy for just lopping off them, anything that's above a lopper job, and anything that's below a chainsaw, I find it's pretty handy, to be fair. And it's, for me, it'll be used for breaking stuff down as it goes into the chipper. I mentioned the chipper as well. That's something that I purchased early on in the year. that was purchased. I'm happy that I'm happy that I got it, basically. It's been worthwhile me purchasing it. I don't do a hell of a lot of chipping during the off periods, but at the same time it's there now, and to me it was a good deal, and I had plenty of work with it. I'm just thinking if there's anything else I purchased last month. I don't think it was. I think I had bills, but like I said, it's all about getting it, because next year and the following year, I'm not being I'm not being morbid here, but you don't know what happens when you have big operations. It could be that there's months of recovery. If there's a problem, it could be. You just don't know at all. So I want to make sure I've got my finances as good as possible. And I also want to make sure that I have got the kit behind me. And it's all, like I said, the blower, I've upgraded that to the 250, because the blower that I've got, it's 3 years old and it's showing its wear. Don't get me wrong, it still works. I don't know how, because I drop it every single day I use it. But like I said, it's upgraded now, so that buys me hopefully another 3 years. Touch wood, I've only ever had good from Stihl, to be fair. And like I said, you just don't know. It's like me and the missus. We might start looking for a place next year or the following year. The bad thing is, there could be a problem with the operation. I might be at a place next year where I can't invest in the business. Or all being well, me and the missus start looking for somewhere, so all of the money's going to go on a house. And you know what happens when you get a house? Children normally follow along. So for me, I'd rather invest in the equipment. I'd rather, buy the big chipper now. I've got it. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to rot away. It's a good chipper. Same with all the other equipment that I bought. So that's my sort of rationale when it comes to purchasing equipment and what my plans are for this year. So, like I said, that's probably the two major sort of updates. I'll get on with the main sort of topic, which is you never know what's around the corner when it comes to this industry. So I've been, when it comes to work, I take what I can get, if that makes sense. If it is for me that I get mow and goes, I take on mow and goes. If it is that I get hedge jobs, I take on hedge jobs. If it is that it's border work, well, that's one of the things I don't take on. And even that, I've had quite a few inquiries for people ringing up and saying, I want a gardener, I need a gardener. And what I do now over the telephone is I just tell them there and then. So I don't know if I mentioned it. I said I'm going to hospital, and I think I said because I've got a big hernia. So as such, it makes bending down and lifting very difficult for me. It's doable, don't get me wrong. If it is that I drop, something, I can pick it up. It's no problem at all. I do weeding jobs as part of my job anyway. I'm fine with them, but when it's a job but it's all weeding, all border work, I just can't do it. It's just, and this is the thing, I tell people, and I'm sure people think, oh, well, is it, I think they just think you're saying it because you don't want to do it. But I just think to myself, well, does it matter? If you don't want to do a service or offer that service, well, why should people, second guess you? Because I've found where I've been telling people that I don't offer weeding. So before they even ask before I even ask them, I just say to them, look, I'm just letting you know, I don't do weeding as a standalone service. I said I can do everything else from hedges, shrubs, lawns, lawn renovations, all the exterior cleaning. I just don't do border work. Oh yeah, okay, that's no problem. Well, come and have a look at it. You get there, and I need those 3 borders weeding. I need the this area clearing and turfing. And I'm like, have you not listened? This is the thing. I don't know what they're hoping, whether you change your mind. And I've had it twice now where I said, is it the borders that need doing? Yeah, if you can make... I said, I can't. I said, I'm sorry, but I said, it's... I did explain on the telephone. Oh, okay then, well, thank you for coming. It's like, well, you literally, you feel like saying to people, you've just wasted my time, but you can't. It's it's part and parcel of being a gardener, unfortunately. They just expect that we've just got to take one for the team, but it does frustrate me. So like I said, work-wise, it's been a good variety of work coming in. I took on a customer the other day, so all of my work so far has been coming from basically organically. It's been coming from either word of mouth or or recommendations. There's a couple of people that have rang. So what I tend to do is when people reach out to me, I'll say, oh, where have you got my number from? How did you hear about me? Blah, blah, blah. And quite often people will say, oh, Facebook, friends, such and such recommended, or saw you about and I asked your customer for your number and stuff like that. But I do have a couple of people out of this, and it was the weeding jobs. And I think it's through Facebook, to be fair, because that's the only other way they could have got my number. So like I said, I'm a bit sort of unsure when it comes to, people like that. But I took on another customer, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going to have to keep my eye with this lady. I've got a feeling she could turn into a right fusspot. And I can see why. She's very proud of her garden. She knows all the plants by Latin names. She knows all when they're going to come out, all what they look like. It's her garden, and she knows exactly how it looks. For me, I am literally there in my capacity. I am there to do the big stuff that she can't do: lawns, hedges, shrubs. I did explain to the daughter, and that was another one that I explained to her, that I don't do border work. But when I got there, it was border work. It was only for the chance that the borders were very small, for one, and two, there was the lawns, the shrubs and the hedges tagged on with it. So I'll have to see. As I said, I have got a feeling she's going to turn into a fusspot. Now, I don't mind working for fussy customers. I think I'm going to be the only gardener as well. Not the only one, but I don't mind working for fussy people. Fussy people don't bother me, because I find fussy people are going to tell you exactly how they want their garden doing, and I like that. There's no room for error, if I tell you, is there? But a fusspot, so it's like today, she come out and showed me what she wanted to do. That's fine. Come back, went back in, come back out. Oh, let me just show you this. Went back in, come back out. And then she was showing me around the rest of the garden. And then she made a comment about, at the end, she says, do you do weeding? And I'm thinking to myself, I've been here twice now. I've took no end of weeds out the borders. I've took no end of, and I'm thinking to myself, I explained to both you and your daughter that it's not a service that I do, but I can take care of this one for you. It's like at the back, she butts onto a field, so there's literally weeds coming through from the field, and she's got gravel. I don't know why she's done it. She chose to gravel where that back of the hedge is, so there's weeds and brambles coming through, and there's just no chance of getting the weeds out of this gravel. And I explained to her, and the daughter, to be fair, said that she doesn't mind doing the weeding, so if I could do the majority, she'll just do the bits I can't do. But it's just with her saying that, and like I said, I've got a feeling she is going to turn into a bit of a fusspot, really. But it is what it is. I've learned now that if people start turning into that and becoming a bit of a nightmare, keeping on at you, basically they never seem happy with what you do. My sort of personal approach is, you've just got to drop them. You can't backpedal. You can't try and get them back to where you want them to be. As horrible as it sounds, you just got to get rid of them, because it's like as if the damage has been done, if you get what I mean. For me, I explained the situation, and I think the weeding is going to be the sticking point when it comes to this customer. But to be fair, it's like, how I see it, it's not like there's been no weeding done. It's been a case that actually there's been a hell of a lot more than I was willing to do and I've done for her. And by the nature of how her garden is, it's it's inevitable, it's going to keep coming, so we'll have to see on that. I took on a lady, so we'll see again. I mentioned in a previous video, I don't know if it was on here or on YouTube, I took on a roadside cafe, and I'll be honest with you, it wound me up because they wanted a regular gardener. That's what they asked for, so that's no problem. I explained to them that it's going to be £50 a fortnight, and the missus piped up, said that's a lot of money, that's a big commitment. I says, you're not in a commitment. I says, ultimately you pay £50 every 4 weeks. If it is that, I said, you're not contractually obliged, because she was making it, she's like, we can't afford to that commitment, we can't sign anything, we don't know what's going to happen, all this sort of stuff. And I says to her, well, look, you're not in a commitment, it's just the fact that I'm giving you this price and it's valid for a 4 weekly visit. I says, so ideally you want to keep it at a 4 weekly, because the price will have to go up. And to be fair, it was very sort of bare bones. It was one where I knew not all commercial work is super well paid and super glamorous. This one, when I first went to it, there was actually a carrier bag full of human feces on the side of the road, which I thought was nice. So that sort of sets the scene. So she was saying about, so he used to have somebody, it was only £40 every 4 weeks, but he wanted to come every 2 weeks. I'm like, well, the price is £50. I showed them all what needs doing, and then they said to me, well, me and the husband chimed in. He says, well, I think that's not too bad. My mate who used to do it, he used to do a shit job anyway. I says, well, it's going to be £50 every 4 weeks. I says, and he says, he made a joke about free breakfast as well. I'm thinking, well, no. So I did the first visit. They seemed very happy, but lo and behold, just before the second visit, they did end up cancelling. Basically, they said to me that one of their friends is going to come and do it instead. And I'll be honest with you, it just sort of wound me up. I just put okay back. It just winds me up, as horrible as it sounds. He said, anyway, it is what it is. You shouldn't get wound up by it, but you do. Like I said, there's nothing personal. It's not we're getting someone else. It's just you see it coming, and this is why you've got to price it well in the first place. Because if you go in cheap thinking it's going to be a regular thing, and then they pull the rug from under you, well, it just really, really winds you up even more. So like I said, the £50, it wasn't a huge, deal thingy, but like I said, it was what it was. For me, so that £50, I don't like talking about money, but I reckon I was there for about an hour. Now, some people might think that's too cheap for commercial work, some people might think that's too expensive. I'll just mention a few on how I come to that price. For me, with commercial work, I always think it should be priced more than residential anyway, by the nature of the beast. I think as well, you've got to look at the bigger picture. Yes, it's, I don't know, say if it's a 25 metre square area of grass and a residential price will be X amount, I always think commercial should be more, because where is that 25 metres of square grass? Is it in a garden on a housing estate, or is it on a commercial setting where you could be mowing and you could hit a half ender, or you could be blowing or sweeping up and you could you could find syringes? Is that 25 metres of lawn in a fenced off area in somebody's garden, or is it on the side of a road with wagons flying past at 50 miles per hour? And I think people forget about stuff like that, the risk and the problems that are involved. And also as well, it's unsociable hours quite often. So I was lucky with this cafe, they closed Monday, Tuesday, so I could get on that site and do it Monday, I could fit it in with me round. But if they said to me, oh well, we're only closed on a Sunday, well, I'd have to go up there on my day off to do that garden. So like I said, you've got to sort of think about stuff like that all the time. as I say, I don't think the streets are paved in gold when it comes to, you know, commercial work, but I think you can make it, from what I can see, you can make a good living from it. So that brings me round to the last sort of thing I want to talk about, is picked up a customer. Now, you never know where it will lead, but with this chap, I'm hoping to keep in with him, and I'm hoping to see where it does lead, and, you know, in the answer to that. So I was at one of my commercial jobs, just strimming, mooching around, getting it all done. Big, massive car pulls up next to me. You know, I need a gardener. He went on to say that the guy who does the gardening for me, he's retired. You know, would you come round and, you know, give me a price? So instantly I thought, hey up, he's had an old guy do it. He's going to be, you know, paid in buttons. But anyway, I always keep an open mind. I think you have got to look at what people say and look at the bigger picture and think about it, but at the same time you've got to sort of just go in with an open mind. So I went in and yeah, just setting the scene. Big house, big massive lawn, as in ride-on sized, huge lawn in all fairness, and there's plenty around it, to be fair. There's shrubs and hedges and all that sort of stuff, and basically it's a nice property. So for me, there's going to be an element of attention to detail needed on this place, and also thinking in advance, because this chap, he spends a lot of his time out the country, so I need to make sure that I'm thinking 2 weeks in advance. So if it is that I do certain parts and he's back 2 weeks from when I come, or the day before I come, he could be walking into somewhere that looks like nobody's been, if you get what I mean, even though I'll be coming tomorrow. Now, any rational person won't see the problem with that, but at the same time, I always, you know, think, you know, attention to detail when it comes to stuff like this. And don't get me wrong, it's a good, for me, it's going to be a good earner. It's going to be, you know, a good rate of return. But the thing, the picture I'm looking at here is this chap's a big business owner. He's got commercial buildings as well. Also as well, he's very keen on keeping his house tidy, so you know, he's happy for a fortnightly visit. There's winter work. One of the things that drew me to it was actually part of the visit is using his ride-on mower to mow the lawn, which I'm really looking for. I did the first visit the other day actually, so I'm looking forward to that. And also there's floating work going to be, you know, as and when. So I've got to mulch the borders, so that's separate to the visits, and I've invoiced him separately for that. And then as and when the shrubs and the hedges need doing, again, that will be invoiced separately. And I think it's one of them where if you get in with somebody, they know you can trust you. What I did mention on the invoice, and I told him on the invoice as well as face to face, that he's working off a set price. So it's set price per visit, and basically from that visit I want to keep on top of his property. But I did say that if there's anything that I need, or I need to spend extra time, I will just do it. You've got to look at the bigger picture here. This chap's in probably £1 million house. For him, he doesn't want me ringing up and saying, hi, such and such, I need to do another £100 worth of work, is that okay? Or I need to buy petrol for the ride on, or I need to buy, you know, I don't know, this for this, or do this for this. He doesn't need to, especially if he's in Spain or wherever he is, he doesn't need to hear it. So I've said to him, you know, my background is looking after commercial properties, holiday lets, commercial properties, and also I've always been an independent worker, so I'll use my initiative, and if I think I need some or I need to spend it, I'll just invoice it, so that's fine. So there's scope for that as well, which I like. I like the fact that I'm going to be left to it for the majority of time. That's something else. But also as well, he's got other commercial properties. So my plan is now, I don't like taking work from anybody, and I never would actively. But for me, I'm hoping maybe trickle down effect. He might say to me, Luke, would you be interested in coming and looking at one of my properties, you know, or if a garden, basically if them gardeners stop doing it, you know, hopefully I'll be sort of first in line. But as well, I will be, you know, like I said, I want to get me, you know, not feet under the table in a negative way, but get comfortable with him. And at some point, I probably will be, you know, addressing it and saying to him, look, you've got other commercial properties. Would you be interested in a quote or a price? So like I said, we'll have to sort of see on that. So that's about it for this episode, guys. It's been another busy sort of thing. I've been looking at the finances and the takings are up. As I said, I am spending on equipment, so I can't really say I'm actually earning any more. But the good thing is what extra I'm earning, I'm actually getting something out of it, which is then something I can carry over from next year to next year to next year. How I look at this equipment that I'm purchasing, I've had good luck with still, touch wood. It's never, in air quotes, let me down. You know, I've got cordless gear that's been running now for 3 years, 4 years. For me, I'd much rather have good quality equipment behind me than going into, say, next year or the year after with the same equipment, because eventually it will wear out. Eventually it will. And the bad thing about cordless is there's no symptoms, because it's computers and stuff and parts fail. In my experience, it just fails. At least with petrol, it runs rough, or it doesn't like to start, or, you know, it makes a noise, or it smells funny, or it looks a bit funny. I found with cordless, it's weird. I've had it where you've used it, pick it up, and it just goes. There's no explanation for it. So, like I said, I want to sort of keep adding, keep upgrading, and keep sort of progressing. And that's how I look at the business in general. So thank you for watching, guys. Have a good day. As usual, keep on gardening.